Happy Halloween, you guys! So I am Poison Ivy. I was Poison Ivy last year, and I'm Poison Ivy again this year. I really like this costume. So today I'm doing something fun. I'm going to be channeling the Fairy Queen. So I actually had this as a request with some questions. And we're going to explore these questions and then just leave it open to anything fun too, because Halloween is a fun time and I want to have some fun with the Fairy Queen. Well, I'm just like Poison Ivy. Is that how Poison Ivy talks? She talks seductively, I think. She probably doesn't talk like that. But I can't help it. This is how I talk. So I'm going to go and tell you what these questions are. And then we're going to get started here. All right, questions for the Fairy Queen. Okay, I would like to know the impact of humans on Mother Nature and the fairy realm. Okay. The current state of nature and the fairy realm. Okay. And how humans should live in harmony with nature and the fairy realm. And if she so chooses, may the Fairy Queen reveal her true name. These are some great questions, and I've never actually connected with the Fairy Queen, so I'm super excited to see what she's like and see how she wants to answer these. And as an added bonus, I'm actually doing this with Joseph Bradley. So I'm going to channel the Fairy Queen. Joe is channeling the Fairy Queen. So we can get two psychic perspectives on the Fairy Queen with these questions and see how he experiences the answer differently than I do. So, okay, are we ready? Are you guys ready for this? All right, I'm going to relax now. Get into Fairy Queen mode. Fairy Queen, okay. All right, so I hear what is a brook of water and a very small waterfall. I mean, it's probably like 2 feet tall at most. And I hear tranquil water moving very delicately. It's just like a very thin, small brook. And then the water, there's a ledge here, and then the water is gently falling into another small brook and moving through here. And I'm experiencing this gentle movement of water and what is a very tranquil and very small little waterfall. I have perception of size that I'm experiencing. I didn't know how to define this waterfall because it was so small. It's not really a waterfall. It's just sort of a little drop off. But to a big person like me, then yes, it just sort of the drop off. But now my size is getting much smaller and it's like huge. It's a huge waterfall. Like it's beautiful, beautiful to experience. And this brook, this tiny little brook of water is so much bigger than when you're smaller than when you're larger. So I'm experiencing it from a totally new perspective now, not as something small, a tranquil, small, easy flowing brook. Now it's starting to turn into a bigger experience. And it's sort of got a delightful alternative nature when you alter your size. So let's see what happens next. So the Fairy Queen wants me to become the water itself and wants me to experience being the water. And she says, how large or small are you as the water itself? Does it matter if you are a 2-foot drop off into yet another brook that is only a foot wide as a human or very wide as a small fairy? But when you are the water itself, what is your size as the water itself? And if you are the water itself, are you the brook and only the brook? Or are you the brook and the ocean and all the water of this world and of all worlds of the entire universe. Therefore, you are that which is water itself. So how vast can you become? If you are merely a small brook of water, now you are allowed to be all the water that is. All that is water, all the water that is. How large are you? How vast are you? She smiles and she points a finger at me and she says, Abby, you are the water. How vast are you? She is emanating this message to everyone who is watching this video. And she says, you are the water. How vast are you? And to get connected with that vastness on a human level, it feels like, yeah, Fairy Queen, I get what you're saying, but I don't feel that vast. I don't feel like I am all the water of the universe. All that water is, I am all the water. I don't feel that vastness on a human level. I feel simple. I feel small. I feel like this little brook in this mini waterfall. I feel like this size. When you say that I'm all the water, that I'm connected to all things as a human being, it feels so much bigger than I am, than I feel that I am. She shows me as the Fairy Queen, she is all the water. She is not just the little brook and then the oceans of the earth, but she is all the water, even the particles of water in the air, across the infinite universe, across the cosmos, across all dimensions, etheric water as well. She is all the water. This is to give you a perspective of her vastness, but this is to give you a perspective of your vastness. This is to give you a perspective of what we would define as a human realm, so much larger than a fairy realm, so much smaller. She says that is not correct. The fairy realm is vast. She says the fairy realm is all the water of the universe and all that water is. That's how big the fairy realm is. She smiles at me. I say, how are you the one and only queen of all the fairies? How is that possible? She raises her eyebrows. And she smiles at me softly again, delicately. She wants to show me. She shows me a fairy that is playing the violin. She shows me a fairy that is singing a beautiful song. She shows me a fairy that is deep in philosophical thought, gazing into the beautiful bud of a blossoming flower. She shows me two fairies in love. She asks me if she is the queen of all of these fairies. She is the queen of the violin playing, the singing, the deep philosophical thinking, the falling in love. Is she the queen of all of these moments, the dictator, the ruler of the fairy that chooses to play the violin over the fairy that chooses to sing, over the fairy that chooses the deep philosophical thoughts, over these two fairies who are falling in love and choosing each other? Is she the one and only ruler, the dictator of the choices of these fairies? She shows me in her world, in her own infinite universe, she is appreciating the song this fairy sings, the sound of this violin, the deep perplexing thoughts, the romantic feelings of the heart fluttering with joy. She is appreciating. She reminds me that she is the water. And she flows through every fairy. And every fairy flows through her, and she is in gratitude for all of these reflections of herself. She wants to talk about the one and only God and the souls that are not God, but hope to one day find their way to heaven, that they could play, that they could sing, that they could dream, that they could fall in love in heaven, where God looks over them, watches over them. She is clearing the mind, the perception of this idea that the human race is not a vast and infinite water, but that the water is up there in heaven, and we could only hope to become a part of it somehow, when we already are a part of it. We already are God. Every single soul is already God, is already a part of that infinite water, as she too is a part of it, as she too is a part of all things. I ask her, what constitutes this identity, that which is defined as the fairy queen? It's her heart is moving, and her eyes get glossy, and there's a single tear that streams down her cheek, that she could be graciously defined as a divine mother, the mother of all fairies. It moves her to be not so much defined as a queen, but defined as a divine mother, not separate from her children, but a part of her children, but not in the way that we define separation, but in a way that we would define oneness. All the water. This is complex because we're talking about levels of respect based on soul age or soul development, based on the souls that came at the beginning and old souls, young souls. If there is no beginning or end, what truly is an old or a young soul if we were all born at the same time, so to speak? What would manifest then a soul that is more or less than another soul? A queen or a slave? A soul that is lower on the hierarchy and higher on the hierarchy? We are talking about this. If we are all water, then we are all water. And there's nothing else but that water. And she bows to me. I start to feel myself transform into the identity of the fairy queen. It feels too great to be identified in such a way. It overwhelms me because it is so beautiful, because it is so pure. She says that is because I define myself as a human and not as all things, as all the water. And that is why it overwhelms me. But she says I am the fairy queen, and the fairy queen's name is Abbey. And she smiles. And she says, what is your name? You who are watching this video. She says, you too are the fairy queen. What is your name? Do you know what my name is yet? My name is all of the names. She shows me a single drop of water, and she shows me all the water. And she says, if the universe only possessed a single drop of water, it would still be all the water. Or if the universe possessed unfathomable quantities of water, whether it is so big or so small, it is still all the water. And it is precious. I am precious, and you too are precious. She smiles to say that. She shows me the fairies that experience the precious sides of themselves. The love of music, self-expression, deep thought, and romance. She loves these experiences so much. It's so wonderful to feel it. It's like a little drop of water that goes into a still body of water, and you see the rings rippling outward. And the little droplets just keep falling, and it starts to rain, and there's so many beautiful rings of water. And that is what it is like in her energy field as she experiences the joys of creation and self-expression and all of this. It sort of tickles her fancy is kind of the way what it's like. It's so beautiful. It feels really giggly and wonderful. Things are slowing down. And it starts to rain, and the sky is gloomy and dark. And the water is washing away the winter snow and sand. And it is purifying the ground and preparing the ground for spring. We all need rainy days sometimes. And sometimes the sad days are actually washing away the winter snow and the sand of our life. so we can be ready for spring. And she shows me how she feels the human race during its times of winter, not just seasonal physical winter, but emotional winters. Winters of the mind, winters of the soul, winters of our experiences. She feels those in her dimension. But she knows that winters always make way for spring. And spring is renewal. And she says the planet has been preparing for renewal for a long time. And our perception of time is things must happen overnight. We have no patience to wait 10 years, 20 years. Why can't it happen now? She shows me the time it takes for the earth to build a waterfall, to build the Niagara Falls. And she smiles as she helps me to understand time. We're all in a hurry. We all worry about how much time we have left. Let nature run its course, she says. The winter of our collective human race is preparing for spring. And she is quite confident and radiant in the way that she expresses that insight. She is echoing the words, do not worry. Do not worry. And she echoes the memory that you are the fairy queen. And the fairy queen is among your realm, as she is among all realms, as she is a part of all the water, as she is a part of all things, as she is also a part of God, the oneness, the infinite oneness. That was so cool. That was so awesome. All right. Thank you guys for joining in on this experience with me. And I really enjoyed that question so much. And as much as I love fairies, I don't connect with them on the regular. And I just enjoyed this so much. That was so fun, and I think so appropriate for, I don't know, for my costume and the Halloween theme. And it's a good time to connect with fairies and get in tune with the planet and the earth and our connection. Okay, that's all I have to say about this. If any of you are interested in connecting with me for a psychic session, please visit me at my website at abbeynormalswisdomquest.com. Thank you all for watching, and I wish you all a happy Halloween.